I had a lot of gumption when I started recording these things too, where I was like, I'm gonna like edit it so people don't have to like skip through all the awkward stuff. But oh man, it does take a
It
lot of
takes,
effort
yeah.
and to remember to even do like small edits, even when it's just like cutting out sections and overlapping sections and remembering to do it and all the other things. So I'm like, they're just gonna get raw recordings now. If you really are that into these recordings, you get to see all the raw stuff, including the raw stuff that I'm saying right now. So thanks for everybody.
Well, so this reminds me that there are recordings because I'm always feeling like I can never make it on Fridays, and
Mhm.
this Friday I'm like, oh wow, I can make it. But
Yeah.
so I need to remember that I can always just watch the recordings. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So good reminder. Um, yeah, so my sort of busy field trip season is winding down next week. And I really, even though it's the end of the season, I want to sort of get back on track with our Phenology trail, which is still in existence, which is,
And can you
oops,
remind us, Kristen, too, like who actually, yeah, introductions,
who
but
am
yeah,
I?
yeah, yeah. Who are you? What are you doing here? What's your phonology trail?
I'm
Yeah.
um I'm with the city of Longmont in Longmont, Colorado, and we have one official trail that we've been monitoring. I think this would be we've done it for 2 years now. And then I'm working out in another um area of the city where I've put the plants in, but I didn't do any observations and I haven't trained anyone. So it's just kind of sitting there. But we want to kind of get those two connected. But it's a side project and we're all just really busy. So, um, but we do have volunteers who actually, we had a meeting. I think we had 12 volunteers for one meeting, which
Oh,
I
really?
mean, I don't think they all kept observing, but
But they're
yeah,
all interested.
there's a certain amount of interest in, and the city is interested and finds it. Um, my department's a different department than, I'm not in natural resources, but my supervisors are like, oh yeah, go for it. So
And Michelle, do you want to introduce yourself to us too?
Sure. Hi, Kirsten. I'm
Oh,
Michelle Peters, and I'm with the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources and the Environmental Stewards Program. And we have two curricula. We have the California Naturalist Program, and we have the Climate Stewards Program. And I also work on a grant right now related to resilient careers in forestry. So I have a lot of hats. But
wow, okay.
yeah, I started out with the NPN and with Samantha as a volunteer, and I still am a volunteer for our local conservancy, the American River Conservancy.
Mhm.
I started a phenology program along with a couple other volunteers, and we have a small but committed group of volunteers that observe every week at our little, we call it the it's at the Wakamatsu historical farm, which was originally obviously Native American land of the Miwok and northern and Nisenan. And then there was a Japanese settlement. It was the original Japanese colony, first Japanese colony known in North America. It's still celebrated like that. We have a Japanese area out there committed to preserving that culture and enriching those who come and visit on pilgrimages from all over the world, including Japan. So that's a really interesting aspect of that piece of land. And then also we have some cultural land management practices that are being implemented as well in the area of some of our plants too. And so we just have a loop along, it's a riparian loop, and we have oak and ceanothus. We have a lot of beautiful buckeye, California buckeye.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, those are the plants that we monitor, as well as blue elderberry, which is also a very important plant for a lot of reasons in California. And I guess right now what I'm working on is, I was just telling Samantha that, I'm taking a climate stewards course right now, which is an amazing course, and I'd like to make sure everybody knows about it. Sam, I just sent you an email with it. Um, which Climate Stewards course is a course that teaches climate communication as well as climate science. And so what it really does is it brings a group of people through, interactions and working together to learn to talk about climate in a way that is not doom and gloom, that is constructive, that helps people understand simple metaphors based on some Noki framework and communication skills workshops. And through that, we are doing a stewardship project, just like we do for our naturalist program. And so for my my stewardship project, I'm going to be developing the phenology program some more in order to bring it to more of a wider community availability, so that we can hopefully grow the program um, and get more than just our couple of people who are really committed right now um, to practice on their own properties, to develop their own personal sites, to just generally raise awareness of what phenology is and its relation to climate science. And so that's what I'm going to be working on. And I know that the theme of this call today was going to be how to engage volunteers and volunteer activities. So I'm totally into hearing more about that from each of you, if you have some things to share to help me move forward with it.
Well, my title is volunteer coordinator, so I'm always working on how to engage volunteers. And I've been working so I'm with the city of Longmont, which is in Boulder County. But I've also been working with Boulder County staff that we're doing sort of joint trainings on basically engaging audiences, in a more, instead of sort of the information dump, which a lot of volunteers really love to do, and talk about what they know, talking about inquiry-based questioning, and how to use different questioning techniques and how to engage audience participation. So we've kind of teamed up with we have a little bit of crossover with volunteers. And so that's how we got the idea of just, hey, we could offer this together for all our volunteers. So, but I love the idea of learning more about how to communicate about climate. I have one volunteer who's working with a nonprofit that is called Classrooms for Climate Action, and it's some retired teachers who've put together a curriculum, and they're going into various classrooms and doing programming around climate. How can young people be active in communicating about climate change? So
That's great.
So if this program is something that's available to the greater world, I would be interested in it. So
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like Sam just dropped the link into the chat
yeah, I
here
saw
too.
that. Yeah.
So you could check it out. There are online courses taught in California and hybrid courses. The online courses could technically be attended by people out of state, the ones that are completely online and not required to come for
Right.
in-person field trips. We're also reaching out. We have a pilot in Oregon right now, and Pennsylvania is about to start. So it is spreading.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay. All right.
yeah, and it's something that is a lot to consider as far as our administration management time, but we do want to spread as much as we can within the bounds of our ability.
Right.
And it is cutting edge climate change education, in that we are really working towards having conversations, sort of helping people understand the basics of it in like metaphors, like I was saying from Noki, to understand the difference between regular CO2 and rampant CO2 and what that
Okay.
does to climate, and the implications of that, and the consequences of that. in California, we teach it with a California focus. Obviously, we have California climate science in there, so we understand the basics of the Mediterranean climate, how
Okay.
that climate is regulated by our ocean processes and larger earth processes, so that people can just sort of see on their local level why these greater, larger planetary processes affect them, and what it could look like within the next 100 years. So I love that you're interested in it. If you bookmark that and, see if there might be a class online that might be available to you if you have the time. And I will say it does take you through the emotions of recognizing your feelings, our feelings towards our place and how it is changing. And I'll say that my personal experience is that it's been hard to do that, but that once you allow yourself to do that, it frees up space to understand what's really going on, and sort of, the acceptance process of it, rather than the fear that keeps a lot of people from even being willing to look at it to begin with. So I think it's a really good process. So I'll stop my pitch on climate
Oh,
stewards
no,
and
that's fine. But yeah,
It's wonderful. And especially hearing about your
yeah,
experiences with it too and what to expect and how
right.
meaningful it's been. I think that's
Yeah.
great.
yeah, I highly recommend it, and give it
Okay.
good time. Be
No,
patient with yourself.
I've got a bookmark, so I will definitely check it out. So thank you.
Great. Yeah, you're welcome.
So I had something, just if we're talking about volunteer engagement and recruitment, I had a conversation with my supervisor where she found a program that Boulder County provides, which is like they have these volunteer naturalists, and it's a required 10-week training. You have to apply and be accepted. And then there's all these requirements. Whereas my volunteer program is, are you upright and mobile and you like kids? And I don't know if they have a waiting list or not, but it seems like they have a lot of volunteer naturalists, and it's kind of a big deal. So we were wondering, I'm like, is there something about when you create kind of this exclusivity and you say you're going to get all this training, is that desirable? Um, so that's kind of a question on the top of my mind right now.
Yeah, I will say that there is definitely there's a lot of research that's been done on like personal investment in things, and especially when it's something like volunteering where you are going to choose to invest your time in something. And so sometimes having that initial upfront investment of like, you have to pay to get like a specific
Right.
training, or in order to be considered this, you have to do a certain number of weeks. There is something to say for that. So like with the local phenology certification course, for example, like we do have the fee for it. Ours
Right.
is, I feel like is like appropriately low
I
compared to
agree.
other
Yes.
ones that are that. And that is because it literally is just to make sure that we break out even for the materials. But
Mhm.
it does give that like, okay, like someone who doesn't pay anything, like, well, I will just
Right.
quit if it's hard, versus like, no, I actually paid money into it. And I put a little bit of investment into it, and I want to make sure I get my return on my investment, sort of thing. And also what I do for the certification course is we do have requirements to complete the course. And I have changed the requirements because it used to be a course where there was like a lot of homework and it was being graded. And the issue I was having with graded homework is I would have full grown professional adults come in and they were right back in high school. Like I used to teach like grade schools in high school, and I was like, no, I'm not grading anything anymore. This is why I'm environmental educator now, not formal educator anymore. And so I took out all the grading components and I did change it to like, yes, do the weekly discussions. Yes, come to the meetings. Yes, have the 3 deliverables at the end, because that does show that you're ready to train people and that you have done the training and you have put work into it. So I lowered those requirements, and then my retention stayed. When I had a ton of homework, people
Oh,
did get scared and get behind and get into that like, oh my gosh, I'm failing, and then I'd
Yeah.
like track people down. But my retention has stayed ever since I did like, yes, you must complete these things. So I'm not saying having them pay for it, but when I advertise the course, I go hard into, you will have things that you need to complete and you will need to do these. And I put it in bold over and over. And that kind of does an initial filter to kind of filter out people who are just curious and not really invested in it and just kind of wondering about it, to people who are like, no, this seems really cool and I really do want to do it. And so then by then, once they're in the course, then I'm like, oh no, just email me. I will work, and I can do all that. But it's much easier for me too, because then usually we get about 20 to 30 people who are in it. And we would have a limit. It is technically an application process. I do kind of 20 to 30 is kind of my limit of the amount of people I can manage. And if it was more than that, then I would have to go through. But usually, the amount of advertisements I do is I'll do like an initial run of advertisements and see how many people apply for it, right? And then and then if I'm like, okay, I've got X number of people, I can handle this many more, I'll do another run. And I'll advertise it usually until I get about the amount of people I can handle. But if I just suddenly got like 100 people, I would have to go through the applications and pick and choose and say, yes, you are accepted. I'm sorry, I couldn't accept you at this time. But there is something to say for having a little bit of like an application process for it and a little bit of like, no, this is the requirements. You can come and go. But it just depends on the organization you're in. I've also volunteered for places where they're a little bit more ebb and flow with it. And just based on their organization and their interests, like that's what's working for them. But yeah, sometimes having a little bit of investment and commitment does help with at least the initial volunteers who come in are the
Right.
ones who are wanting to invest and commit to
Right.
it.
Right. Yeah. So, well, that's really interesting. Yeah. And I took the course, and at the time I wasn't working. So it was low enough that I felt like it was fine for me to pay the fee. And actually it worked out because I got a job with the city, which is where the Phenology Trail is.
So you did get a job with this. Michelle,
Yeah,
were you
no,
in a similar thing where you got like the job? Like, yeah, because Michelle got her job too, not long after like taking the
being a
course.
volunteer, Michelle. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I approached our open space department as a citizen of Longmont and said, I've been doing environmental education. I don't have a job currently, and I really want to put in a phenology trail. And just background, I had been working at Denver Botanic Gardens, and so they have a whole phenology trail there. So, and I'd done education around that. So it was really familiar to me. And they were very excited. And then I think I started that it was about a year before I got a job with recreation, but I'm at a historic site. And so it's kind of this crossover with parks, recreation, natural resources, open space, and nobody communicates very well. And so everything comes through me. So they're all guys. I can say that here, right? They're all these outdoor burly guys, It's like, just ask Kirsten. So, but yeah,
Michelle,
that's where. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, Michelle, yeah, what's your experience with your volunteers at your program? And because you said you've got dedicated volunteers who are coming weekly, like what was your kind of strategy for that?
Yeah, well, one of them has already been very connected to the land there as a steward, and they come to the weekly anyway to help with the different, land management that goes on there in preparation for events and things. Um, and so she's really committed. She wanted to um, learn about phenology, she's a retired person, did the online observation training, observer training. And then another person was actually recommended to me through the Master Gardener program here. She's a longtime Master Gardener volunteer, had already been interested in phenology, had already done a little bit of work in phenology, volunteer work. And had a phenology wheel presentation that she likes to give. And so she came on and she's amazing. And so the three of us rotate our observations weekly. And actually, one of them has started taking on the data entry aspect as well, which is really nice.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
just
Yes.
having the time, I having started out doing this as a volunteer, and I'm still, of course, still a volunteer, but now it's sort of incorporated into my job as well.
Right.
Um, if I had more time, if I was still a volunteer, I would absolutely be more able to do more. But what I am also doing right now is, like I said, in sort of integrating phenology into my position as well as a community educator. When we work with partners who are teaching California naturalist courses, they want to involve phenology, some of them. And so I can give little talks about it, short activities. One of the types of courses we teach is an immersive course for California Naturalist for California Conservation Corps members. And so that's a 7-day, all day course, and they get trained as naturalists in a week's time. It's really wonderful for the Corps members. It gives them a lot of the why of what they're doing in their stewardship. They're paid land stewards for California. They are amazing people. I have so much respect for them, and so this gives them the environmental education piece, and then so it's fun to take them out to our site, or even last year it was raining, so we had to do it at a different site. But I quickly scrambled to find which plants were around and produced the data sheets, and we got the waterproof paper, so we did it in the rain. It was really fun. So I really love working with Corps members and teaching them about phenology. So that's one way that I've been able to integrate into the education programs of our partners to help with that. Um, and actually, I kind of have a question. It's sort of related, but it's so we're hoping to involve phenology in a little bit of a deeper degree with our one of our California naturalist courses being taught this coming spring with American River Conservancy. And I have not yet done a formal observer training for volunteers or for the public. Online with the modules, what is it, 6 modules? Um, that's a few hours time. If people are really paying attention and really deep into it and do stuff like me where I'm like cutting and pasting everything so I can, produce it into something to share. But I'm hoping to do it within an hour for these folks. And I wonder if either of you have any suggestions for that, to take some of the observer training. Obviously, they wouldn't become certified observers in Nature's Notebook, but just to give them enough to go forward and um, incorporate into another course.
So are you for 1 hour, would it purely be like an indoor presentation about it, or did you want them to have a little hands-on experience?
If we could fit a hands-on experience into that as well, that would be great. But uh, basically, I want them to come out of it being, fairly aware of
Right.
phenophases, of what to look for. And I know there are a lot of materials online that I can print to send them out with once they are out there
Right.
doing the activity. Um, I mean, maybe like I was considering taking the observer training slides and just shortening them into,
Mhm.
a condensed version.
So, when I was at the Botanic Gardens and I taught professional development for teachers, I incorporated our phenology trail and nature's notebook into an 8-hour class. It was all day, but the phenology part was just a short part. And it was basically teaching being able to teach kids with outdoor activities and how to incorporate these elements. I'm trying to think, it's been a while, but it was about an hour. And so I just had a few slides about, I stole the slides from my research department, where they actually had lilacs, at each phenophase. And we I explained what phenology was, and we went out. We had, we were on site at the garden. So we went out and we found some of the plants that are on the phenology trail. And, we downloaded the app. And for people, I didn't get too into the weeds. So I'd have paper sheets available. But, for younger teachers, downloading the app was not a big deal at all. And yeah, it took about an hour. And it was just kind of like, this exists. This is something you can do with your students. And it was really in a broader, talking about different citizen science projects. So Nature's Notebook's one of them. Because we had a phenology trail on site, I spent more time on Nature's Notebook. But we also talked about iNaturalist a little bit. There's one, I don't know if it's still going on in Colorado, the Pika project with the Denver Zoo. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
That one.
So
I also let people know about Budburst. I give Budburst a
yes,
shout out
no,
too.
Budburst, Budburst actually giving the gardens a certain amount of money right now. So
Oh.
we're focusing on that. I'm not there anymore, but so
I worked with Budburst and iNaturalist a little bit earlier this year, and it was wonderful working with both of those groups. And we're working on a project so that we can integrate all the data, because I hear all the time like, oh, you should work with iNaturalist, right? But people don't understand, like, the databases of the programs are vastly different. And there's this program right now called Phenobase, where we are trying to find a way where all these phenology programs, like, their data can all be together so that researchers can very easily integrate all the data from the different programs. Very cool.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's neat.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Okay.
As far as like the training thing for like doing a 1 hour training, one thing you can do is you can create a training site. So like when you have your local phenology program and we put it in the database and everything, you can create a training site and add some plants to it that yes, they can download the app. They'll be prompted to like join a group, and then they join, you tell them which training group to join. And then if you're worried though about the data getting into the database after the training, you can go back in and you can go to delete plant and you say, it'll give you a bunch of options. And if you say training test plant, it'll remove all the data from the database so that the data doesn't negatively affect the database. So it's different, obviously, if you're using the phenology trail ones, but if you have if you want to do a training, like a training site, you can do a training site and then you add the plants before your training and then you just delete them and say they were test plants at the end. And then the data won't affect the Nature's Notebook data. And then the other alternative is to, you can print out the paper data sheets. So if you know what plants you're going to do, you can print out the data sheets that you can hand to everyone. And you can even like, sometimes I'll just go on like Canva and I'll make a shortened version so they don't have to worry about every single phenophase, especially if there's a bunch I know aren't going to be there. I'll go to Canva and I'll make kind of a shortened sheet that I can and especially because I'll make it like a third cut flyers, so they're not getting a whole piece of paper, like they have a smaller one that they can do.
Okay.
And I'll do that for trainings. And another one I've done, if I know it's an hour training and I know we won't have time to go outside, is I'll bring a couple of potted plants with me. So
That's a good idea.
My porch garden, I have a bunch of potted plants out on my porch. And some of them are my training plants and they've been surviving, which is great. Sometimes I have to buy new training plants when they don't survive, but I have a bunch of training plants right now that are surviving that I can bring to trainings multiple times then, that people can make observations on those plants. If I'm super lucky, my milkweeds will have caterpillars on them and I'll add caterpillars to the training.
Oh, wow. Yes. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like things I've done before, and I just will modify it a little bit more, maybe add some more. I'm still, kind of connecting the pieces between a really short version in which, the data we collect isn't necessarily going to the database, and giving people a more intense, something in between the whole observer training, right? So like somewhere in the middle where we train them I'm hoping pretty well to be able to feel confident to go out and, maybe start their own site at home and then finish the observer training online kind of a thing, get them really motivated. So I'll work with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
Oh, no. I was saying
Yeah.
you could also make a personal site network if you really wanted to also, and the personal site the personal site network model of the local phenology programs is where like you're still the local phenology leader, but they all make their own personal sites. And when they join your personal site network, you can see all their sites and you can still see all their data and everything. They can't see each other's personal sites, but you can still keep track of it. So if you're like, okay, you'll be ready to volunteer with us once you make a personal site, you make this amount of observations and you can show me you completed the course, and then you can join, these trainings. So if you have like a kind of a pre-homework sort of thing that they can do before coming to your training, that's another option. And that, yeah, Kristen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one too. Do you have any sort of trainings like that on hand that you've created or?
Oh, like not for that one exactly. I have lots that I've done of like, because I'll do talks like this is Nature's Notebook. Like I haven't really done one myself for like bringing in my own volunteers for a long time.
Okay.
But I know we have just a ton of examples of PowerPoints that are on the website, like almost too many on the website right now. But really, yeah, just shortening anything you make, or even repurposing ones you've made for other programs. Just
Mm-hmm.
having the big sections that you want to have is like an introduction, why are we doing this? What is phenology? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little bit of like, what is citizen science? Right. So that you're getting them
Mm-hmm.
Everything is like this. Everything in your training is like, this is why what you're doing is important. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
who are we? Why is citizen science important? What is Nature's Notebook, right? And then so it's like Nature's Notebook, and you can show like a map of the programs around the world that we have around, not the world, the United States, and then a little then the training part. Sometimes I'll have them practice with some pictures. I'll have some pictures of plants when I'm introducing what phenophases are, and then we'll go outside, or then we'll do the potted plants.
Mm-hmm. Kind of
But
like in the observer training, the mini observer training, like this is this, and then you look at one and say, okay, now tell us what is this? Yeah, that would be fun to do together and get people talking too. Okay, thanks for those tips.
And I'm wondering if the slide I used with the different lilac phenophases is from your website. That it's possible.
oh man, it is possible. We've done a lot of
Yeah.
lilac with lilacs over the years. They're one of those great model species. So
Yes.
it is very
Wow.
possible.
And that was the Denver Botanic Gardens has a whole lilac garden that they've been monitoring for the last 50 years. So
Oh, so cool.
that's why we used lilacs. Yeah, it's kind of easy to go out and look at lilacs. So
Yeah.
Nice.
And then Kristen, I kind of talked over you a little bit earlier, but I don't know, hopefully you remember it, but the point that
oh, that was just me thinking that the slide I used with all the different, it's just a slide with different photographs of lilac phenophases, and each one's labeled. I'm wondering if that came from the NPN website. So the other thing I was thinking that I shared with teachers is all the educational resources that are on there where you can sort. I mean, that's one of the, I haven't seen that very many places where you can sort so between informal and formal education and different grades, and yeah. So
good. I like that. We are working, like we are so close to like putting up that new website now. And so I did like try to make that a little bit easier too. Because right now on it, like we have so many and some of them were outdated. So updating them,
yeah.
updating some of our resources. We had one of our students translate some of the activities into Spanish too, which is
That's
really,
great.
yeah, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Great.
So to make it easier for teachers to be able to find, like we'll have like what I think it's like 3 or 5 for each grade level, and then we also have just like the whole like list that they can search for keywords or filter through and try to find things that work for them.
That's great. Yeah, I strongly support all materials in Spanish. We're working to hopefully get all of our stuff into Spanish as well. It's a
Yeah.
process, but so
It
important.
is, and I feel like, we're just really behind. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and Canva just recently, by the way, just put up a magic translator. Like they just released it this week. I logged on and they had a pop-up that was all like, try out our new magic stuff that we have. And one
Canva.
of, I
Oh,
haven't tried it
oh,
yet, but one of them is magic translator. So when you make a Canva
wow.
design, I just haven't tested it. So if anyone
Yeah.
does test it, let me
No,
know
but
how it goes. But
I'll definitely look into that.
yeah.
Um,
The
we
one
have,
thing I would caution is have someone who knows the
oh,
language actually
absolutely.
proofread it, because I
Yes.
definitely I used to be fluent in Spanish and I can read it now, and there have been times where I read that I'm like, wait a minute, like I
That's not
know
right.
that's not right. And there's also just little, just casual things that native speakers actually say that they're like, why would it translate it? No one talks
Yeah.
like that.
Right. It's the
You
whole
know,
Google Translate
but it's a
thing.
good
So,
start. It's a
but
good
it
start
is,
though. So
yes.
that even if you have a translator, they don't have to start from freaking scratch at least.
Right.
Like you could have them just proofreading at least the translations, so that anyone you have
Hmm.
working with you who's doing translations,
Yeah.
they don't have to start and do the
And
whole
we
thing.
definitely have people on staff who could look over anything I did. But I have, we were really struggling yesterday with a few kids who were primarily Spanish speakers.
Hmm.
And I was just a little, usually the school brings a teacher who can speak Spanish, and this school didn't. And then I do have one bilingual volunteer, and she's on vacation right now. So we were, it was clear these kids were not getting what we were saying in English. So um,
Hmm.
I'm pulling out my sheltered instruction techniques. And so,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it just is so important to have someone working with you who can have those abilities. So
Yeah.
I'd love to have volunteers who can speak Spanish. And if I have volunteer flyers that are
Yeah.
in
So if you have
Spanish,
bilingual flyers, then
maybe that would be helpful.
and
That's really
especially
neat
if
that
you,
Canva has that.
oh yeah, yeah, I'm excited. And then especially, yeah, if you have in the flyers, like, yeah, if it is bilingual flyers and encouraging that, it might
It's more welcoming. It's saying,
yeah.
wow, these are skills that we value. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be putting together some social media posts. I'm hoping to be able to bust out maybe 12 of them to cover a year's worth, maybe if our conservancy posts them once a month. Um, and so I was going to use Canva's social media guide, and then I can also, if that's available, I could potentially put them in Spanish as well, and then have, yeah, obviously a staff member or somebody proofread them. But that's really good because that's one of the things I want to accomplish, and I also want to put together a story map. So to actually have our page up and going would be really nice. And that's, we can link that to the NPN site too, right? Can we do that as
Yeah.
well?
Well, so let's see. When we're so this is one thing that we've been trying to do, right? Because right now, like basically on our website right now, when we're putting information about local phonology programs, is you guys have to send it to us and then we have to like upload it. And like sometimes, things can get lost or anything like that. But one thing that we are doing with the new website is we are giving you guys more control over being able to do that. So each of your local phonology programs will have its own landing page that has like, here's the data from our program. And it will also have that you as the local phonology leader will be able to edit the descriptions and put in those websites and put in the story maps and put in all that. So yes, I will
Great.
say now, like, yes, it's basically like I would have to upload like your partner website and stuff like that I would do for your program. But in what we're going to do is make it so that you then have control over what is being shown to everybody and what you want to share with everybody and being able to do that. So it's every time we do like a test for the new website, I just like freak out. Like it's all beautiful because we do want to give you guys more freedom and autonomy to have like a landing page that you can send people to for your for your site, that our staff of, very limited people, trying to be able to manage all the programs, right? But giving you the power to be able to manage what is being represented for your programs. I'm really excited about it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's very exciting. I was telling the Conservancy about it, and like, oh, that's going to be fun. Yeah. And I would like to move forward with getting our personal site network going too. What do we need to do for that process?
So for starting a personal site network, when you started your I don't know if you remember from the course, but you were able to like request a local phenology program. It's the same thing. You request a local phenology program, but you say that it's when you're going through the process, you clarify that it is a personal site network. I will say that process, like, I hate to give a date or anything for the new website, because every time we're like, yes, we can get it by this time, it's like, shoot, like there's this, thing that happened that we have to fix. Because like such a huge database and there's so many moving parts to it. But we're making that process easier too for starting a local phenology program. But for now, yes, you can go on to this, create a program, and then you just mark it as a personal site network. And then we'll get it in the database. And then whatever it is you call it, when you have your volunteers join, then they'll create their own site and you'll be able to see all their sites. So you, Michelle, you'll be able to see like the programs you've got now and your personal site network, and that drop down in your observation deck. You'll be able to go to that personal site network and you'll see all your volunteer sites.
Got it. Okay, that'll be great. And can it be connected to our group site in any way, or is it going to be separated?
I don't know. I think it has to be a separate thing. If you're, because it's one thing when you're having the group site do it, but having a group site, because it's so different how it's done. Because with the group site, you're creating all the sites that everyone can come and see and everyone can come participate. But a personal site network, like if I was part of your personal site network with my little test plants here and my porch, like none of your other volunteers would be able to see it. But in the group sites, all your volunteers can see, and participate in that.
Right.
Whereas a personal site network, just the leaders can see all the different sites. So I know it's a whole big different thing, and I don't think we can have like your current local phenology program can have both group sites and personal sites.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I guess I had one other question, which is some people have been adding themselves to our group site, and I don't know who they are. I know we've talked to you about this before, and I think it's because we have an acronym in our name. And so I was wondering about changing the name of our group site to reflect our entire organization rather than just the acronym.
Yeah, so that one,
people...
send me a specific email of what you would like to change it to then. And then, yes, then we can change the name of the site. So, because we have to do that on the back end. So send me an email of what the current one is and your username and what you would like to change it to. And then I send the ticket.
Okay, thank you. I will do that. I feel like these poor volunteers, other places in the country or whoever they are, would like to join their local phenology program, and I'm just getting more aware of acronyms and how they only serve in a certain capacity and otherwise can be a disservice. So that's one way that I want to change my acronym use and rename our program the proper name.
Yeah, that should also hopefully with the new site too help it a little bit more, especially with because it will have actually we've got a map of the programs and they can click on to find yours from the map, or they can search it and hopefully it'll be a little bit more clear who's here. Eventually, what we'd also like to do is a request, like you can have an open group where anyone can join it versus a closed one where they send you an email to join it, and you can't just have random people join it. Right now, anyone can. That won't be released with the like initial thing, but it's one we want to still be able to do in the future.
Great, that'll be good.
Yeah. But yeah, for now, yeah, just send me an email with the specifics and I can forward that and we can change the name.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, we've got 5 minutes left. Is there anything else you guys would like to? This was lovely. I want to do it more like this in the future of like,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. We can just ask their questions. And
Sometimes I've come, sometimes when you've had a presentation of someone doing what they're doing, and that's interesting. I've found that. I mean,
yeah,
I can't come very often, but actually starting now, I have, things are winding down. So
I
at
love
least
having
through
them
March.
do the presentations. That was when I first started and I had a lot of gumption. I'm like, oh, we can email people and like, schedule. It's a lot of work to like try to track down which ones would
Sure.
like to do it. And we always say like, hey,
Yeah.
if you'd like to talk, reach out to us. But no one wants to volunteer to do like that.
Well, and
That's a little work. But I'll see if
I
I can find a more fun way to get it out there to like.
I mean, I would do it, but I just feel like I need a little more time. I don't know. I just, it's like, well, we barely started and
Yeah,
but we actually do have volunteers out there. So
maybe I should find some of the ones who took the course like in the past year or so, because sometimes we try to find the long-term ones who are doing it, but like some
yeah,
of
and
the
that's
newer
a
ones,
little,
like
I
tell
mean,
us
that's
about your
great.
first year. Yeah,
It's inspiring, but it's also a little intimidating. Yeah. So
exactly. Well, thank you guys. This was
well, thank
lovely.
you. No, this was great.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Michelle, and thanks for your link for the climate course.
Yeah,
And
and I'll find the Classrooms for Climate Action site too, Kristen, and so I'll post both of those on the YouTube link too.
okay, yeah.
Great. Great. Nice to meet you as well, Kirsten, and to chat with you and Samantha today. It's been fun.
Yeah, I will